For me, the common thing is that kind of public purpose. You know, people work incredibly hard in the public sector, but what they're doing is they're creating social value. It's not a value for a shareholder. I think it's having resilience during that time as well.
Right.
And I'd say that about any long-term regeneration project, you're going to have ups and downs. You know, we've been here for 20 years, not me personally, but there are going to be ups and downs in terms of the market. And I think when you work on regeneration projects, be it estate-based or on something as large as Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, perseverance and resilience, really remembering it's about that long-term vision. There might have to be some creative thinking around some kind of bureaucratic institutional blockers.
Okay.
But the models are there. If you look at what's happening in Manchester, you're looking at some of the partnerships that Homes England are setting up elsewhere in the country. It's completely doable.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge sponsored by Redloft and by Vistry. And every month I've been visiting a different council to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. But not this month. Because of the local elections, we've not been allowed to talk to councils. So instead, we thought we'd take the opportunity to visit the London Legacy Development Corporation and have a chat with Darren Parker, who's the head of development here, about his career in public sector housing delivery, the private sector, RPs, and some of his reflections on what it takes to get homes built. Darren, hello. Tell us where we are.
So we're outside of Hackney Bridge and we're in front of this wonderful Clonico lady. So Clonico was a factory that was based in Hackney Wick, which was really famous here for many decades, up into the kind of post-war period, and it made sweets. And so not only do we have this wonderful mural on the side of Hackney Wick, we also have the Clonico Cafe in our housing development, which is a great community-run cafe, and that provides actually barista training for people with different types of learning difficulties as well.
And it's a great example of, when you look around a place like the Olympic Park, everything feels new. It feels like it's been created really recently, but of course there is history and heritage in all places. But I don't want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about your career. One of the big issues facing public sector housing delivery is attracting and retaining talent. You've proved yourself as a deliverer of homes. What's your advice to people about the career path that you've taken and where you've ended up?
I would go back to my very first master. So I did urban regeneration at UCL with Sir Peter Hall, and he set up that course in response to the kind of John Prescott Housing Task Force ages and ages ago, which was really to think about urban regen is you're kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Yeah. And you know a little bit about lots of things, but you're kind of in the middle between development, architecture, planning, investment. And I think that's a really great space to be in. So what would my takeaway be? Don't get obsessed being, such a technical expert in just one area. The great thing about the built environment regenerations is it's so diverse, and it's really been great in my career to be able to kind of hover around and between. I mean, yes, I'm a development surveyor by trade, but I didn't actually ever practice that really.
Did you not? Tell us about that.
I started out more kind of thinking I wanted to be a planner, and I did a lot of work on kind of growth areas back in the early noughties, going up and supporting local councils that have been tasked with huge housing targets, and we're thinking about urban extensions or town centre intensification. And I realised I actually wanted to get involved in more the kind of delivery side. Yeah. So that's why I became kind of obsessed with it, going back and getting my surveying degree. But it did actually provide a really good platform, because it wasn't just about making plans, it was then understanding the mechanisms and how you get things done. So I have moved around a little bit, and then I spent 15 years in housing association development as well. So some of the big developing housing associations.
And what would you say about the relative merits of working in housing associations, local authorities, development corporation?
I think for me, the common thing is that kind of public purpose. You know, people work incredibly hard in the public sector, but what they're doing is they're creating social value. It's not a value for a shareholder. And don't get me wrong, there's a place for that, and it's great working with our private sector partners. But I think that's where it's great when partners come together and you kind of have those kind of shared values. From a public sector point of view, it's always about, what are we doing for local people? What we're doing for the taxpayer? And I've seen that in housing association, development corporation, and in councils. It's all about what we're doing for our residents and our customers as well.
So to anyone who's working in local government, thinking of maybe there's a lot of development corporations probably coming towards us, maybe thinking of changing career paths and going into a development corporation, what thoughts would you have for them on the pros and cons?
Oh, on the pro side, I mean, like I said before, the development corporations are strange beasts. But there's a freedom that comes from that, that you don't have some of the same pressures and constraints you might have in a council. On the flip side, you certainly don't have some of the kind of resources and that, when you're in a council, you have so much expertise around you, everyone from housing management, the people picking up the bins, I mean, I think councils are incredible organisations. They have so much expertise across all types of service delivery. We don't have that in-house, but we can talk to our partners about that.
What's the toughest part of your role now?
The toughest part of our role is trying to keep the show on the road through what is a very difficult period in the market. Making sure that we can, maintain momentum on our housing sites that haven't started. It's about making sure that we maintain investor confidence and the confidence of our boards and our stakeholders that we can deliver.
What about you personally in your role?
I think it's having resilience during that time as well.
Right.
And I'd say that about any long-term regeneration project, you're going to have ups and downs. We've been here for 20 years, not me personally, but there are going to be ups and downs in terms of the market. And I think when you work on regeneration projects, be it estate-based or on something as large as Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, perseverance and resilience, really remembering it's about that long-term vision.
Yeah. And what's left to do, Darren? I mean, you've achieved so much. What are your ambitions?
I want to stick around here and make sure there's 4,500 homes get built. I am laser focused on that at the moment. That is really important to make sure, in terms of the credibility that you have as an organisation, that we see that through. As you can see here, we're more than beyond started, but you've got to see that through.
So in order to see that through, and in order for more people to build more homes, what has to change?
I think areas around funding and viability, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about. I think particularly in London, there's a space now where we need to be really creative about some of the funding models that we could explore. We're doing this at the park. So like many other partners, there's an issue around capacity in the RP market at the moment, but there's a lot of interest from long-term institutional capital coming into affordable housing. And we here at the park are really interested in, can we create a vehicle or convene a vehicle that provides a way of that long-term patient capital aligning itself to our development programme. So that's exciting for me, because I think that might offer, again, another example, another model that could either be replicated in other parts of London or scalable in terms of our growth borough partners. And that opportunity to be creative, I think, is really exciting.
So that's you as one partner, institutional capital as another partner, and you come together in a sort of joint venture?
I think a place-based investment vehicle, to actually fund our development programme. What we have here is we're the landowner, we're a regeneration agency, we're part of the mayoral family.
So the finance gets some certainty from all of that.
Absolutely, and it's about making sure, if we can find a way to bring that long-term institutional capital into that type of partnership, I think it can offer a template for others in and around London.
And the capital then is available to you at a lower interest rate in effect. So that makes schemes viable that would otherwise be more difficult to bring forward.
Yeah, absolutely. But then it also brings capital and capacity into a sector which is finding it very difficult to access at the moment as well.
But does that have to have a development corporation as one of the partners? Because one of the problems, if it was a local authority, would be the sort of political uncertainty over the development programme.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think many boroughs have got, the issue temporary accommodation. They've got their own development programs. I don't think it's a political issue in many boroughs that they have to deliver more housing. It's finding a way to bring other forms of capital to deliver that doesn't rely on the HRA or other things which are very constrained at the moment.
Yeah. So what has to happen for this to take place?
What has to happen?
Yeah.
I think whether it's ourselves, the GLA, Homes England, it's getting together as public sector partners and trying to focus on the fact that we're actually in a really difficult place at the moment. There might have to be some creative thinking around some kind of bureaucratic institutional blockers.
Okay.
But the models are there. If you look at what's happening in Manchester, you're looking at the kind of some of the partnerships that Homes England are setting up elsewhere in the country. It's completely doable. So I think what has to happen is that the public sector partners need to coalesce around a proposition, get clarity of what we can actually offer to the market. But I think the market is there if we get that right.
Darren, I wish you luck. Let's hope it works.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's it for this episode of 1.5 Million New Homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Vistry. But we are going to be back in just a few days with more from the London Legacy Development Corporation. So hit like and subscribe and you won't miss that episode. Look forward to seeing you.